Sukuna's long-awaited court trial with Higuruma is coming. But does Higuruma actually have a shot at putting down the king or nerfing him for everybody else? And I want to preface this by saying I love when a series uses a logical option that may be a little goofy to solve a problem. Because for a long time, people talked about the Higuruma domain being very useful against Sukuna, but people always thought, what, are we going to have a court trial? And it is starting to look like that is exactly what we're about to see, because Higuruma's domain, it does sound extremely good against Sukuna on paper. Disabling violence, confiscating your technique, a one-shot sword, all of these things sound extremely useful against Sukuna. But a problem I don't see brought up that much is that Sukuna is aware of the mechanics of Higuruma's domain. He was still inside of Yuji when Yuji had his own court trial and he was present for Higuruma's full explanation. How much will that play a factor? Probably a lot, because at the end of the day, this is Ryomen Sukuna. You give this guy an inch, he'll turn it into a mile. But I still think that Higuruma is capable of nerfing Sukuna temporarily, especially with his confiscation, because that just seems like the best option here. And my boy Kashimo, he got utterly humiliated, didn't even land a punch, truly a circus, but Higuruma being one of the other major players in the culling games, I think he has a better shot. Because these characters, they were brought into the fold for a reason, and Kashimo's reason was to get bodied and then have Sukuna give hints about his backstory. Even the Kashimo haters were wrong. They thought he was going to be a jobber, but he was actually just an exposition tool. Jobber would imply that he actually managed to do something before he died, which, let's be real, Kashimo didn't do anything. I guess he did manage to push out the true form, but also Gojo had like a 12-chapter fight prior to that, so I'm sure people will overhype or downplay that depending on what their agenda is. Speaking of agenda, let's talk about my agenda, the Yuji Itadori agenda. What is he going to manage to do here, even if Higuruma pulls off the impossible? Right now, we do not know how strong Yuji got. Nobody has made a comment on how powerful Yuji is. We saw the soul swap ability in 222 for like 2 seconds. But Yuji last stated, I will eat anything to kill him. And it looks like he has been going on the Ham-Nam train ever since then. Because whatever is going on here, whatever Sukuna-y things are happening to Yuji with his new claw hands, I doubt they're going to do nothing, especially after Sukuna said, what could you possibly do? Generally, when you are the main villain of the main character and you say, what can you do? He's probably going to do something, and you're about to find out. If Higuruma is able to confiscate Sukuna's technique, Yuji in his current state might be able to box Sukuna for all we know. Throughout JJK, Yuji has always been presented as a physical powerhouse in combat, and while maybe if you power scale him, he isn't exactly at the top of the top, that's not really the point. The point Gege Akatame is trying to tell you is that Yuji Itadori, there is something off about him. There is something emotionally unstable about this kid. And the more we see Yuji get pushed to the brink, the more powerful he usually gets, and there is a reason for this amp. Even Todo mentions in the early chapters of JJK that anger is a powerful tool for a sorcerer. And Yuji has that in droves, especially for Sukuna, so him having this perfect vessel power-up, I think he's going to do work. And the other major question people have is, will Sukuna be able to reopen a domain? And the answer to that is probably. On paper, he should be able to. He did pretty much just get a whole new body. This wasn't even a reverse curse technique thing, he just incarnated himself. This should be the OG Sukuna, fresh and ready. But that being said, even if Sukuna can open a new domain, Higuruma's domain disabling violence, that might actually be able to stop his sure hit from activating. And we know from Gojo's fight with Sukuna that even though Sukuna's barrier technique is superior to Gojo's, that does not mean he inherently wins the tug of war. Winning the actual sure hit battle seems to be based on either having an overwhelming power over your opponent's domain or simply having a powerful technique. And even during the Gojo vs Sukuna fight, we see that Higuruma and Hakari, they're both mentioned repeatedly as natural prodigies with domains. And Higuruma was a natural prodigy without any real prior training, and now he's had a whole month with Kusakabe the All-Knowing. And potentially even with Gojo himself. Granted, Gojo is kind of a terrible teacher. Personally, I wouldn't even trust Gojo to teach me a simple domain, let alone an actual domain expansion. Either way, when you look at how powers interact in JJK, usually it's best to look at the simple option. Things like Gojo's domain being weak to attacks from the outside, these were predicted for a long time, but a lot of people look over them just because they're so simple. Because really, as we go further into JJK, the obvious answer tends to be the right one. Not always, but more often than not. So for things like Higuruma's domain, it might just be as simple as he activates it and Sukuna's stuck inside. I know a lot of people think that Sukuna might finesse his way out of this, which is possible. This is Ryomen Sukuna. He kind of just gets out of everything so far. But the story has gone pretty out of its way to make sure that Sukuna's CT has been under wraps or unable to be used because of 10 shadows or domain amplification so far. Because it's probably going to be absolutely insane when he actually uses it, so them keeping it away from the cast is just their best option. If it were for the fact that Sukuna is currently inside of Megami, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually won here in an outright fashion, but they're gonna save Megami, so that kind of has to happen here. That's the main objective they've been going for the whole time. And I've seen a lot of people talk about this being Sukuna's final fight with Yuji. I don't think that's what this is. A lot of people think the pacing is rapidly approaching the end of the story, but we have a whole other arc after this. This is really just the Save Megami arc, at least that's what it feels like, and that's what I've been calling it, because Megami, he's going to come back. I don't know how Sukuna is going to get another body after they save Megami, but he probably will as well. We are really being primed for a major reveal and plot twist because we have all of our main characters in one spot, and Kenjaku said he did not want to make a move until today. Something is coming. The true purpose of the Culling Games is still hidden from the cast intentionally by Kenjaku and Tengen. Kenjaku almost spilled the beans before he had to go fight Yukimura. The whole merger creature plotline where everybody has to die pretty much to get this giant thing out that's going to merge with the whole world and then ruin everything. I don't really buy this as the actual end goal. Kenjaku wants to optimize cursed energy, and that is the plan that he has repeated multiple times. Even Tengen has repeated this as well. And at the core of that plan seems to be both Yuji and Sukuna coexisting for reasons we simply do not know yet. The true villain of Jujutsu Kaisen in a lot of ways is cursed energy itself, because this power system, the source of power all these characters are using, it just seems unnatural in a lot of ways. You have characters like Yuji trying to find out what a curse truly is, and nobody seems to know what true Jujutsu is except for the giant demon guy, the big brain man, and the person that is now a Pokemon. And that's the reveal I think we should expect, because cursed energy at its core will likely be explained to us before the series is over. And let me Toji plug here, because Toji is so important for this reason, because he is one of the only characters in the entire series to outright break away from this power system, from this unnatural power. Or as Tengen put it, he broke from fate, when fate is really just cursed energy. Because the machinations of all the characters, they are driven by this power source. So having Sukuna around all the main characters right now, this would be the time to have him just spit the truth out about the Heian era, about cursed energy itself, and what its origins might actually be. And even though Hakari is currently stuck dealing with Ryomen, it looks like from his smug face that he's doing pretty well, and I think Ryomen is going to lose to him, just because Ryomen, she gotta go. Ryomen has had this signature look of superiority for way too long, so if Maki and Yuta show up, they should just jump her with Hakari, finish that job, and then go deal with Sukuna. Because at the very least, I think Higuruma will be able to stall Sukuna, or in a better case scenario, be able to confiscate his technique, because that's really the silver lining here, is confiscation would be useful against Sukuna. I don't see the Executioner's Sword being that useful. On paper it is, but against Sukuna, he's not dying to a one-shot technique, it's just not happening. Because that's what Yuji's fists are for, so you might as well just throw this Claw Man at him at this point. But those are some of my thoughts on Higuruma and Yuji. I think they are about to go put the hands on Sukuna, or at the very least, put him in the court trial of a century. Or not even a century, the court trial of a millennia, because Sukuna, he got a lot of crimes built up. I'm excited to see where Chapter 239 takes the story and where we're going to be once all these students actually show up to fight Sukuna, because we're kind of getting the drip fed to us. Because it really seems like putting Higuruma as the front runner, that's part of the plan. Everything they've done so far seems pretty meticulous, except for Kashimo, who just got bodied. Kashimo kind of just pulled an Anakin in episode 2 against Dooku and just ran in immediately and got taken out in the first shot. Everybody needs a Kashimo to make the villain spit backstory, that's all I'm saying. I'm curious to see where other people think the story is going. There have been a lot of conflicting opinions, so let me know in the comments below. And if you like content like this, subscribe for more. And as always, thanks for watching.